We do not have enough money for schools and hospitals, but here we are paying our ministers a lot. Not only are we paying our ministers a lot, we are paying too many ministers too much.
So this is on Indian female political participation.
Okay, famous question, yes.
There's only 6.8% of us in this country. Yes, I understand that. But when I look at the leaders who are deciding on what, I mean, of course, we're not separating people by races, but I think it's undeniable that different races have different issues as well.
Yeah,
especially
true.
with the Indian community, we face an extreme level of discrimination.
Yep.
And when you're dark-skinned, that's a whole different ballgame, right? So then, talking about representation, clearly Indian female political participation or representation is 0 to none, or like very, very little, right?
Yes.
So why do you think that is? And how can we change that? How can we fix that?
I think the source is a male-dominated Indian community participating in politics from the beginning of time. I think there is a lack of recognition that women are leaders as well and that we can lead well. In fact, I would say this openly, women can sometimes be better leaders. I truly believe in that. We can lead the country, we can lead the cabinet, we can lead ministries, we can lead state constituencies, we can do wonders. But I think the culture, the patriarchy needs to be addressed. I seek the communities, I urge the community to also realize that girls have a role to play and you need to give them the space to do this since they are young. I think it starts when they are teenagers. You need to allow them the space to grow, to interact, to communicate, to engage. Allow them to express their feelings, their thoughts. I think it starts from there. And I think there is a lack of political will, there is a lack of will from leadership. Either it's both sides. I wouldn't blame any parties in this particularly, but I would say everybody has a role to play.
So isn't it crazy how every single time, you know, like banjir lebat, hujan lebat sikit, and we're all like, oh my god, is he going to banjir, is he going to banjir, is he going to banjir?
I get that.
We're all constantly afraid. People are suffering. This is really concerning. It's no longer seasonal. It's happening every other day. It could happen anytime, right? So what do you think we can do to make sure that we protect the people and move forward in a way that people don't have to live in fear?
I think this is long coming. The country and the leadership has failed to make climate change one of their bigger agendas. You can't avoid what's happening. I think it needs to be a concerted effort between different levels of governance, whether it's state, local council, federal government. There needs to be bigger political will to ensure that people do not suffer a tragedy. And I think there is two prongs to it. One is to prevent. You need a lot of prevention. And then there is the other aspect of responding to the disaster itself. And there itself, we do not have enough. I think we're not doing enough. And we've seen through the flash floods last year and how we suffered, how people in Sri Muda, for example, Hulu Langat, entire houses, we are talking about houses being submerged. So I think, and the rescue team not being there within minutes or within hours, you know, we had to wait days for them to get to people. I think this needs serious thoughts from leadership. I hope they start digging the rivers and cleaning the drains properly. Yep. I think every time you go into a monsoon season, you need to ensure that your drains are clean.
The Orang Asli community has experienced displacement and discrimination and have been fighting to keep their ancestral lands.
Yeah.
Right? So it's a long-running issue, and we see it every few months. The papers will pick it up, will talk about it, and then, you know, but they are suffering every single day.
They are.
Right? Okay, so do you think these lands should be gazetted as heritage lands sometime soon?
They definitely should. I think the Orang Asli communities have been living in their lands for hundreds of years, and I think that heritage needs to be recognized. We need to protect their right to this heritage land, and we need to be able to understand their situation. They want to live in their lands. Don't take that away from them. I think that's what's important. Give them the space to be in their land.
Freedom to choose.
Yeah, the freedom to choose, and they have every right to choose where they want to be.
Of course.
If it's their ancestral land, don't make it difficult for them to prove that that is their land. I think it goes without saying. They've been living there for hundreds of years.
So this is on minister's salary. So I know this for the past 2 years we've been talking about it, ever since we found out that ministers get 42,000 ringgit for pinggan mangkok allowance. Like, so on average, they earn about 55,000 ringgit a month inclusive of allowances. If I'm not mistaken, I'm very bad at maths, so I'm going to look at this maths that I've done. That is 660,000 a year.
Okay.
Okay, that's a lot of money.
Okay.
But an average Malaysian earns only 2,933 a month.
Okay.
They would have to work for at least 19 months to earn at least 55, and maybe 19 years to earn 660,000 ringgit. That's wild. That's like we're here and like we're talking about Iceland, right?
Sure.
Like some people, this is the kind of money that some people will never earn in their whole lifetime.
That's
knowing
true.
that the poverty levels in Malaysia are increasing, right? Okay. So, question is, should the salaries of ministers be reduced so that there is more of a relatability with the common folk?
I think the income gap is too big. I understand that the common people do not relate to that kind of money coming in, definitely. I do not relate to that kind of money. I think that kind of income is really too high. I come from a middle class background. I've worked my wages. My fresh graduate salary was nothing higher than 2.5, you know. And yeah, we both come from that background, and I'm sure a lot of us out there struggle with that. And I think by the end of the month, there are many of us who do not have enough to go by, and I know how that feels. I think it's time that the government relooks as to how much minister earns. I remember thinking that we have so many ministers, so many deputies, and that is really a question of do we have enough to go by? The country is running dry of resources. We do not have enough money for schools and hospitals, but here we are paying our ministers a lot. Not only are we paying our ministers a lot, we are paying too many ministers too much. I think that needs to reduce. More importantly, I think let's have a lean government. Let's have a cabinet that's lean, and I'm sure enough civil servants are doing a good job. We have a big civil service. We don't need a bigger cabinet. We do not need that. That is definitely something I do not agree with.
Racism and prejudice, right? Like non-stop, man. I was just telling my friends the other day, sometimes I'll be at home quiet, I'll be like, today I don't want to think about anything unhappy. And then somehow racism will find its way to me. Then I'll be sitting there thinking, what did I do? What happened? Clearly, it's a major issue in Malaysia. How can we move forward?
We need to start allowing policies that are not race-based in Malaysia. There are a lot of policies that are race-based. I understand that we have laws that protect the community, especially the Bumiputra community. We have Article 153. I respect that, but I think that we accept that that right is given to the Bumiputra community. But I think needs-based policies need to surface more, especially in education, especially in job opportunities, employment, labour, industry. I think meritocracy needs to surface.
Kalau kita ponting sekolah tiga kali berturut-turut, confirm got warning letter. 10 kali I think suspend already, buang sekolah, goners.
Gantung sekolah.
Gone, gantung. Okay. So do you think there should also be a punishment for MPs who have been elected by voters who stand in the hot sun and vote for them to do their one job? Among other things, should there be a punishment for them when they don't show up?
Sure. I think definitely. People elect you, your job is to go to parliament. I think the bigger picture is this. Malaysia doesn't hold their leaders accountable. Malaysians do not have a system, a mechanism to hold leaders accountable. And I think that is the source of this problem. I don't attend parliament, so what? I don't answer to anyone. I don't answer to the people that voted for me. There should be a mechanism. You need to make leaders accountable. If I don't attend Dewan Undangan Negeri, the people of Buntong should be able to question me. How come you're not in state assembly? And if the people of Perak votes for leaders to go to parliament, then yes, they should be able to question. Malaysians as a whole should have a mechanism to question them.
Yes. I feel like there should be a report card. Just like it should just function like school, right? We have report card, we have attendance. So you tak dapat, you in trouble end of the year.
Yeah, like potong gaji 6 bulan. I don't know. Do it,
setahun,
but do it.
Sebab kau tak nak kerja kan?
Yeah.
Can you name us 3 issues that are most important to you, closest to your heart?
Education, I think teachers' role in the education sector needs to be upgraded. Welfare, the workload, and making sure that they teach rather than they teach and do admin work. If you meet teachers today, they tell you that they are so overworked, there's so much of paperwork to do, and they're administrators, there's so many programs in school to run, and you call them and you talk to them, they will tell you, I need to organize this program, I need to organize this meeting, I need to do this, and they rarely talk about what they need to teach in classrooms. So I think you take them away from the children. You create a gap between them and students, so they don't get to hold the children's hand and walk with them in the process and the journey of education. And that needs to change, and this is not an easy change. This is a cultural change. It has become a culture in schools. Teachers do everything else but teach. I think, and it's not the teachers' fault. I think we have good teachers, we have qualified teachers, we have training institutions to train these teachers, but when they are posted to teach in schools, they do 30% teaching, 70% paperwork, admin, programs, meetings, state level, district level, so many things but to teach. I think that needs to really change. Then you get good teachers coming on board, and then you get teachers who can focus on teaching. Women and girls' health, I think that's very, very important. You need to start early to make sure that they know what's happening to them. Puberty, I think that's very close to my heart. There's a lot of there's lack of awareness amongst young girls when they reach puberty. What problems they face. A lot of girls today are suffering from problems like PCOS, PCOD, and they have no idea that there is a way to manage these things. And I also think budgeting is close to my heart. There needs to be proper budgeting for a lot of things in this country. You need proper policies put in to make sure that people receive what they're supposed to receive. Certain constituencies need more help. Certain segments of society need more help, and I think that's very, very important.
What do you think is the biggest problem in Malaysia that needs to be fixed, like right now, right this second as we talk?
I think budgeting, again, we need to ensure there is zero corruption in the country. I think as much as everybody's tired of hearing, oh, corruption is there and that's the reason why we need to change the government, actually that's not the reason. The reason you need to look into corruption is because your life and my life is being affected. Everybody's life is being affected. The amount of money that's supposed to reach the people is not reaching the people, and that is a cancer. You don't see it, maybe you don't feel it personally, but I've seen it. I've worked in the Ministry of Education. I know a certain amount of allocation is supposed to reach schools, they don't reach schools. Contractors take half of it, take a quarter of it. I've seen it happen. I've seen records of these things happening previously, at least, and that's really worrying. That's a culture you need to change, and it's rooted, it's deeply rooted in this country. You need to change it before it becomes a cancer, before it becomes worse. We are heading towards a cancerous, corruption-based system, and I think that the stop needs to come now.
What does your ideal Malaysia look like?
Ideal Malaysia to me would be where responsible people can be held accountable. So if you are in a position, for example, today we have an LRT crisis in KL. I know, yes, I'm far away from it, but I hear it, I read about it, and it's so frustrating. So who is responsible? Who is accountable? And how can we make them accountable? People seem to walk away from their responsibilities very easily in Malaysia. I do not like that. In fact, I hate it. We need to find a way to make people who are responsible for a certain job to be accountable. If there's something that goes wrong, they need to answer. They need to create a manner in which they can be answerable to the people. I think that's more important, and there should be consequences. I think if you don't do something well, don't walk away scot-free. I think that's really, really important. I think I want to walk away with a message to younger voters. People always say, I think that this is a rhetoric karangan tajuk. If you remember from school, we come from the same generation. Pemuda hari ini, pemimpin masa depan. That needs to change. Pemuda hari ini, pemimpin hari ini. In Tamil, I have a nice catchphrase for that. Indriya iளைஞர்கள், இன்றைய தலைவர்கள். So that needs to change. You are today's leaders. You're not tomorrow's leaders. So take part, participate, have an opinion in politics. That's all.